everyone. Welcome to this Child Life Q&A session. I am Deanna Bryan. I'm the program manager at Hope for HIE. As always, I am joined by Annie Gunning, our child life specialist and grief counselor. And with it being late August, for some families, like my own, our kids are back in school already, 1st of August. And for others, depending on you live, that is happening very soon. And getting ready for the school year can be exciting, but it can also be extremely overwhelming, especially with children with medical needs or unique learning challenges. There can always be a little added extra oomph that you need to prepare for. And those transitions can feel really big and really scary for some, whether it's a new school or even a new class or new teacher, new friends, the whole thing. So Annie's here with us to kind of share strategies and tips and guidance to help as parents and caregivers, help our kids feel a little bit more confident and supported and prepared for those back to school transitions. So if you're here and you are joining us, say hi and send us a comment. Let us know from where you're listening, and also just send us questions, and we will, if we have any that aren't answered, we will make sure to answer those at the end. But in the meantime, Annie, welcome and introduce yourself and say who you are and what you do for Hope for HIE.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad to be here again, doing one of our child life Q&As. I feel like a broken record saying my role. Deanna and I were just talking about this, but for those who don't know, I am a child life specialist and a grief counselor. So child life specialists, we typically work in hospital settings. That's where we've been historically, but now a lot of times child life specialists work with nonprofit organizations. They work in schools, private practice, just different areas in the community. And we provide support to families during stressful situations, life situations and challenges. So typically that revolves around something medical, a new diagnosis or injury, whether that be an acute or chronic illness, hospitalizations, and then all the things that come along with that. So our job is really to help make sure the children and the families understand what's going on. We help guide them in advocating for themselves, and we provide the coping support. So we want kids just to feel supported and educated and being able to make those positive coping choices when they're experiencing those really stressful things, to decrease any kind of trauma and increase positive coping skills.
Yeah. So Annie is really easy to reach and access. I mean, if you visit hie.support, you will get connected to her by clicking on the Child Life Specialist portion. So if there's something that you need one-on-one help, whole family support, and something that a situation that needs to be curated specifically to you and your family, she can help with that. But for now, we are going to focus on back to school transitions. And the first question we have is, as parents probably may know the answer to, but what are some of the common challenges that maybe we see when children, especially children with HIE, may face when transitioning to a new school year, to a new classroom, and just after a long hiatus, after a long break, how do we go back?
Yeah, we're all getting used to the new schedule, and that comes with challenges. This is one of those challenging things. Transitions are typically harder for kids, and it takes some practice and some preparation for that. So a lot of kids, they just maybe get a little bit nervous, or they might feel some of that stress when they're meeting new peers, new teachers, because they got to learn like the new way of things in that classroom, right? So those things can be hard. So helping them make friends, advocating for themselves, that's what we want to help them do, because those are challenging when you have to meet a new group of people, especially if you have issues with any type of self-esteem or self-confidence. Like, those come into play as well. So we want to help the kids really focus on their strengths, give them ideas of things that how they can interact with their peers, like whether it's special interest or things you enjoy. Help them with those conversations. And then meeting the new teacher is always a little bit exciting and fun, but also can be a little bit scary. So we want to support them in that. And then helping kids and talking to them about how they advocate for themselves. At a very young age, we can start this. So that way, by the time they're older, they're very good at it. So having them talk about what they need, giving them the words, but then asking them to do it can be really helpful. Just beginning to give them those words. So one of the other challenging things is that new environment and new routine. Like we've all been, in the summer mode, and sometimes that's really relaxed. Some people are in a very scheduled summer mode, but if not, there's a lot they're adjusting to. That sensory
Mhm.
input. There are accommodation plans, just physically navigating the room and making sure all their needs are met. Those are all big challenges and big changes that we need to help get kids focus on and help them through.
Mhm.
And then making sure that the teachers and the school administration, counselors, whoever, they're understanding of the child's needs. So what are their medical needs? What are their physical needs and emotional needs? Their challenges, their strengths, their learning styles, and communicating all of that with the staff so that they know ahead of time, this is my kid, like this is what my kid needs, this is how my kid thrives. And helping the school to understand that is only going to benefit your child. So those are
Yeah.
some of like the big, I feel like, the big issues, when you're going into the new school year.
Yeah. And when you're from a 30,000-foot view, maybe that just seems like a checklist of things to handle. But when you're in it, I mean, even school preparation, as we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes, that's big.
It is.
And I think it's okay to recognize that that's hard and it maybe be tedious. But that's why I
Yeah.
think you're going to have so many great strategies to kind of
Yeah.
help maybe alleviate some of that. Um,
Yeah. Changes are
Speaking of
hard and
which,
transitions are
yeah.
hard for kids. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And for adults too,
Yeah.
you know.
True.
I mean, so, that's a great segue because now we can talk about some of those tools and strategies. So, how can families help their children ease into that return to school after a long break or just extended time at home?
Yeah, I think one of the best things we can do is we talk to them about the school ahead of time, right? What
Mhm,
is your day going to be like? What is your what's your schedule? What are your classes going to be like? Or like even what just and I guess I say classes for older kids, like if they are switching classes and moving around. But just what does the day entail? When are the breaks? When do they eat lunch? When do they go outside? Do they have rest time? Just
mhm,
knowing that school schedule ahead of time and going over that with them, that just helps prepare them so they know a little bit about what to expect. There's going to be a little bit of shifting and changing and some flexibility, once the school year gets going. Everybody knows it changes a little bit, but talking to them about that ahead of time is going to be really helpful. And reading
mhm.
books about school, they can just be fun books. We're just kind of getting the mindset excuse me, getting the mindset about school. So it doesn't have to be like anything, specific to your child. We can just talk about school. I love calendars, using calendars and social stories. So any type of visual for a kid is going to be really helpful. So even if you have that morning calendar of like get dressed and brush your teeth, eat breakfast, leave for school. And then, they have their school day, and then after school they have practice or grandma picks them up or whatever their after school thing is, and then dinner, and then bedtime. Like visual calendars are really helpful. You can make those simply on your own. Mighty and Bright, I have some of their calendars and they're great because they come with it. Calendar and stickers, and they're removable and you can do lots of different things, but you really can just make your own or buy something at the store or Amazon, something like that. I
I
also think,
also
oh yeah.
I just wanted to, because you were talking about it, I
Yeah.
just wanted to share it because you made this and it's beautiful. Um, and we're going to have it available on our key takeaway blog as a Canva template. So you just have a free account and you click on the link and you can customize this, to your family. But that's essentially what a social story is. You said is just like a visual calendar of
Yeah.
of of what's going to happen. So if that's
Yep.
something that's interesting to you and you think your kid would benefit from that visual, just wait a day or two and we'll have that link for you on our blog. But
Yeah, and I left a couple spaces where you can put in your own pictures, and you really can put in your own pictures on any of those images. Some of them I
mhm,
already plugged in, but they're very simple. There's not a lot of words to them. It's just like this is what we're doing, and then there's a sentence to describe it, and that's it. And that's really one of the great benefits of the social story. It's a quick, almost like a quick book, but it's
mhm.
personal, so you can add their own pictures. Um, if your child has any separation anxiety, which my children both had a ton of, but if your child has a lot of separation anxiety, practicing like brief moments of separation that can help them get used to the new school year, knowing that you're coming back. I'm coming back in 1 hour. I'm coming back after this show. I'm coming back after lunch. And then you come back after lunch. That's the same thing as I'm coming back after school. So just it kind of helps prepare them and gets that in that mindset that we'll be separated, but then we're going to be back together if that's a difficult thing for your child. And then highlighting, of course, what you can look forward to. School's going to be fun. You get to make new friends. You're going to get to play some games. You get to do different classes and learn different things. So highlighting whatever could be fun for your child is going to be a benefit.
Yeah. And then, as we've talked about before, when it comes to facing unknowns, fear of the unknowns, routine and practice really do make a lot of difference. So my question is, go back to the page, what routines and prep activities are helpful for getting ready? I flipped it too soon.
Yeah, no. And as a child life specialist, preparation is key, right? Like we prepare kids for like procedures, tests. So we prepare them for changes, for transitions and things like that. That is a huge part of what we do and huge proponent of it and really helps kids. So before school, and again, I know some schools have already started. So if you're still waiting, but this can be with any transition, anything new, drive by the school, walk the hallways, go visit the playground, anything that you can do ahead of time that gets them a little bit familiar with it. So then the first time they're seeing it isn't on the first day of school. So any of those things, and you can talk to the school and let them know, hey, I think this would really make my child do the best at school. Is there a time we can do that? In most schools, I feel like will let you come and do that, even if there's I'm sure there are a lot of schools, most of them do like a meet the teacher day ahead of time. But if they don't, just call them and ask them. So going along with that, meeting the teacher, the counselor, the school nurse, any of people that will be involved with your child at school, I recommend talking to them ahead of time, letting your child meet them ahead of time, just so they know this is a person you can go to. If the nurse is going to be involved in doing any kind of medication, feedings, anything like that, meet ahead of time so that they know who that person is. Then when they see that person, they know what's going to happen. Looking at pictures of the school, walking through the daily routine, that all goes along with when you go and visit the school. Just let's see what we're going to do each day. We're going to go in the classroom. Oh, then there's the cafeteria. Then we go outside. Then we go to the music room. Let them just kind of check those things out and talk about it. They'll naturally kind of ask questions and be curious about some things. And if after 15 minutes they're done, that's fine. Like we don't want to push them. We don't want to make this a scary thing. This is supposed to be a preparation thing.
Right.
And then for younger kids, you want to keep that preparation visit closer to the day of school. With older kids, you can keep it a week out, even 2 weeks out. But the younger they are, the closer it is to that first day. And then repetition and visual and familiar visuals. So those books, read those books, go through those social stories, those kinds of things, especially for the younger kids or kids that just need repetition. It's going to spark new questions each time.
Yeah. You just mentioned books. We have book titles for back to school as well that are going to, again, be available on the Key Takeaway blog. So these are ones that you've come up with, Annie, and we pulled from other reliable resources too. So this is a downloadable, printable thing, so you can kind of look at it, but it's all about navigating nerves and just having those shared experiences.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, as our families know, back to school doesn't just mean like buying pencils and getting the uniforms or clothes. There's a lot more of an emphasis on meeting the school staff and creating that partnership with them. So that way your goals are aligned and there's a sense of teamwork surrounding your child. So from your professional perspective as a child life specialist, what's the best way to communicate a child's medical and developmental needs to the school, and how do parents go about sharing with those teachers? And along those lines too, how do kids go about sharing with their teachers or their classmates if they so choose?
Yeah. And I think obviously it's very important for the staff, the school to know about any type of medical issues, right? They need to know, plus you have to fill out all the paperwork for medication and stuff. So they need to know all those things to take the best care of your child. And you're your child in their care for, 7
Mhm.
hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Like they're going to be with them
Mhm.
for a while. So just making sure that any type of diagnosis of any kind that's going to affect their learning, their emotions, or safety, everything is shared. So that can include triggers, like what is going to trigger, maybe it could be a seizure, or what might trigger an emotional response. Are there certain sensory um, triggers that are happening, or like warning signs? Like if your kid is going to have a seizure, maybe XYZ happens before that they need to know about those warning signs, and then
Mhm.
come up with those emergency plans. And again, most schools, if you have a child with medical needs, you will fill out a form of who you call, where they're going to go, medication that's going to be given, all of those things. So just really making sure that all of those things are filled out and in place before school starts, just so when something and if something happens, the school isn't scrambling and you feel
Right.
comfortable and safe. It's about how you feel comfortable and safe leaving your child at school.
Mhm.
And then as far as I think talking with the child and about the classmates, you have a conversation with them, like what do you want your classmates to know, or what don't you want them to know? Because they don't have to know everything, but if you want to share that you have seizures and you want to talk to the class about that, let's come up with a way we can talk about that with them. And then that would be like a conversation with giving the child the words, and they can talk about what a seizure is, and this is what happens, and this is the medicine I take, but I can still play and I can still go to school and do sports, but sometimes this happens. So really, I think it's giving the child the control of what they want to share about themselves, and knowing that
Mhm.
that is not the only thing about them, right? That's a tiny piece of them, so they don't have to share anything that they're not comfortable with. But then
Yeah.
making sure they understand that the teachers and the staff, they have to know those things.
Yes. And a while ago, we did a Q&A with you called Owning Their Story, teaching our children with HIE how to self-advocate. And you have a lot of amazing tips and guidance and insights on that too. So you can find that on our blog, but it's also going to be linked on this key takeaway too. So
Mhm.
if people wanted to learn more and kind of revisit something that we've already talked about.
And like
Um,
that's where, like, I have talked to parents through our Hope for HIE community
mhm,
about specifically like that, like how do I talk to a classroom, because my kid is going to be coming in a wheelchair now, like what do I do,
mhm,
how do I say this
mhm.
to them, how do I teach them about it so they know when they're not scared? So I
Yeah,
have talked with parents to help guide them on what they can do ahead of time, so I'm happy to do things like that as well.
awesome. And we also know that in addition to having routines and practice down, that just building up our child's emotional safety and boosting their self-esteem and confidence goes a really long way too in navigating some of those big changes, whether they're expected or even unexpected. So what tips do you have for parents in helping their child feel confident and comfortable in a new school environment? Or even strategies to kind of support social connection to help them reduce some anxiety?
Yeah, if there's anything your school, like trying to make friends or meet people beforehand, can be a great tool and a great resource. And I know at my kids' school, when they were younger, it was mostly elementary school, but they had a buddy program. So it wasn't necessarily that you were a new kindergartner coming in, but just a new child coming into the
Mm,
school. You were paired up with another family. And so then you would get contact information. You could meet up beforehand. You could kind of plan your own individual things to meet up. And hey, other families, let's all meet up together. So trying to connect with the school and seeing if they have some type of partnership buddy program, or what's their Facebook or their Instagram where you can meet up with other families in the area. So
mhm,
that can be a great way to connect. I feel like I see it all the time, like, hey, we just moved to this area. My kid's going to be in fifth grade and sixth grade. Like any families around our age that are interested in whatever sports.
mhm,
So I think social media really can be helpful with that. And especially if you do the school social media, it's going to be another family that is either near you location wise or is going to be near your child during the day. And then if the school and has anything like beforehand, like popsicles on the playground or any kind of meet and greet for any
mhm,
new families or just for the start of the new school year. And maybe if they don't, maybe recommend it. Be like, hey, this is
mhm.
a really hard time. Can we meet on the playground for an hour? And can you send out something on your social media posts. So I think any way you can just kind of help kids meet beforehand, again, so then they just have that familiar face, can
Mm-hmm.
be really helpful.
And even if a school doesn't have a program that's pre-existing, any school counselor would
Yeah.
be able to identify some good buddies and some good peer systems and help facilitate that too. So it doesn't have to be this full-blown program.
Yeah.
School staff can help too. Yeah.
Absolutely not. And I think even like a PTO or something, like a
Mm-hmm.
parent group can be, so there's lots, yeah, I agree. I think there's lots of
Yeah.
different contacts that we
Yeah.
can reach out to at school. And so
Yeah.
I don't know, like when you are talking about building up their emotional safety and understanding, like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, talk to them before, like emphasize their strengths and celebrate their
Yeah.
differences. Hey, none of us are alike. So if that is something your child you feel like has started to focus on or noticed, or you maybe have noticed their self-esteem change, like nobody's the same. And what a boring world that would be if we all were the same,
True.
So I really do think identifying that, like I talk with kids about this all the time, that nobody's the same. And what are you
Mm-hmm.
interested in? Well, let's find some other kids that are interested in the same thing, whether it's gaming or Legos or a sport or music, crafts. Like some schools offer maybe an after school, like cooking program or art program, just anything. And I also think it's important to note that I get lots of questions from our Hope for HIE community about engaging their children in different types of play. They might share with me that their child is total care dependent. And so they don't really play how they thought they would. And so, how can we get them to play? But
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have your child enrolled in some type of an after school program, like a cooking thing or something, they're still playing in their own way. Like they're still smelling things. They're still watching what other kids are doing. They're still listening to all the different voices and hearing people talking. So they're interacting and they're playing, but it maybe is different than what you thought it was going to be. So
Yeah.
even though they can't sit there maybe and hold a spoon and mix a bowl, but they're watching everybody else do that and they're hearing the sounds and they're smelling. So they're still engaging. So I think that
Yeah.
is still important.
Yeah. And um, in terms of just self-esteem and confidence, I mean, it's easier said than done, right?
For sure.
But right,
Always.
right. The negative self-talk is always there, but what are some things that we could do as parents and caregivers to help our sometimes they don't want to hear it from their parents either. They'd rather hear it from
Right.
anyone else.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
regardless, what can we do and what can we say to kind of help with that?
Well, I think that's an important point, actually. Like, yeah, especially older kids, like, it doesn't, you're my mom, you have to say
You're
stuff like
supposed to
that,
say
right?
that. Yeah.
Right? That's what like older kids say.
Mhm.
Fine. Go. I
Yeah.
help them identify someone at school, a
Yeah.
coach, a teacher, a counselor, the nurse, whoever. Like they might just get a special connection with someone at school. And that's going to be the person. Like I have called different coaches at my son's school and been like, it doesn't matter what I say. Can you please talk to him about like confidence and self-esteem? Can you have a
Mhm.
conversation with him about it? Because you're cool. You're like young and hip and he'll listen to you. And you can
Right.
do that. Like you can help identify those people for them. But
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to listen and validate what they're feeling. Kids don't
Mhm.
always want us to fix everything. Like I have had
Mhm.
kids tell me like every time I tell my mom, she just wants to fix it. I just want her to listen. So
Mhm.
we can just listen and validate like that sounds like a really tough day, and then put it on, what do you think could make your day better tomorrow? Do you have any ideas of what you would want to do to change that? Do you
Yeah.
want me to help you come up with ideas, so that way we're not solving it for them, we're not fixing it, but we're going to work as a team to come up with a
Mhm.
plan to help your day maybe be better tomorrow, or
Mhm.
help increase that self-esteem and that confidence. And
Awesome.
celebrating all wins, like any win is a win, small or big, any win is a win. And pointing those things out and maybe focusing on those things instead of the other things that didn't happen. Again, that's one of those things that I feel like is, like you said, easier said than done.
Mhm.
But they're really important. And the more of those little wins we celebrate with them and point out, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and then I know you mentioned like celebrating their strengths and their differences too. We also have a book list that you've made that celebrates like inclusivity and diversity. And I just wanted to let people know that when they're
Yes.
listening to this, to go to that blog because that's going to be there too.
And a
Um,
lot of the school books I think that I added too on that list, I think there's a lot of
automatically.
yeah, they're all in there too. And I will have to say, like, I got a lot of these books from other like reputable sources and organizations that I love. So I have not read all of these books, but I trust where they came from. So
100%. I think, as a ex-teacher, I think one of my biggest things was, as a parent, definitely do your best to be responsible for looking at and previewing material before you share it with your child, of course. But I agree that even in making the book list, I looked at some of them and they're so, you know, a lot of them are for
right.
younger kids too, like
Yeah,
it's all good.
yes, they are. A
But
lot of them are definitely I mean, that's just where most of them fall is that elementary
yeah,
age, those books,
yeah,
but if anybody
yeah,
needs a specific age group, just let me know and I'm happy
for
to
sure.
look around. Yeah.
For sure. And then this is an expected transition, maybe not a well received or, one people don't look forward to, but we know that school is always coming. But even though we know school is coming, those expected transitions can still stir up a lot of emotions, like and big changes. And as you said, that brings excitement and worry. So I think a big part of navigating this transition is making sure fostering a culture or community at home where they feel safe to express themselves and talk about what's going on. So our next question is really all about what are some ways to help support some of that emotional expression at home.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. We gotta continue to support that at home because at home is where they feel safe and where they're
Yeah.
going to let all those feelings out. They're holding it together all day. Like we've all
Mhm.
seen this. Your
Mhm.
kids, no, everybody's like, your kid's so good at school. And then they come home and have like giant
Fall
meltdowns.
apart. Fall
Yeah.
apart.
Because they've held it together all
Yeah.
day long and they know
Yeah.
home is and I've talked about this before, home is their safe place to like
Yeah.
let it out, right? So
Mhm.
we want to encourage that. We also want to encourage it in a healthy and safe way. Like we
Mhm.
don't want complete explosions. So just kind of checking in with them like, hey, before school starting soon, what are some things you want to know about your teacher or things you're going to be doing this year? And along those lines, making sure their accommodations are in place to help them be the most successful, whatever those
Mhm.
accommodations need to be. So I kind of missed that. I'm backtracking a little bit,
It's
but
okay.
making sure whatever accommodations that are in place or need to be in place are, because that's going to help that self esteem, that confidence, and then be successful in school, whatever that might be physical,
Mhm.
emotional, cognitively, like those things all need to be in place and then
Mhm.
checking in with them like, hey, how was your school day? What did you do today that was your favorite part? What was the hardest part of your day? So you are checking in on both of those, kind of like the rose thorn activity, like the best part of your day, the hardest part of your
Mhm.
day, what's it going to be like tomorrow, and keeping those questions open ended. So not
Mhm.
asking how was school, fine, like that's what we all get, right?
Yeah.
So just asking something specific about it and then validating those emotions. You don't have to fix it. We all have hard days, right?
Mhm.
So going back to what I talked to before, it sounds like that was a really hard thing. Thank you for
Yeah.
telling me. Is there
Mhm.
anything you want to do or change to fix it? Or not to fix it, but to change what happens tomorrow and
Yeah.
just keeping it, the conversation going. And then always offering those outlets for expression, whether that be art or
Mhm.
just sensory with Play Doh, dressing, Legos, building, being creative,
Mhm.
outside movements, like all of those things. We don't always have to be talking to show feeling expression. That can be done through all of these playthings. We're also getting expression out, feelings out, processing. So a lot of kids, they might not sit there and talk to you about how they're feeling, right? But they'll play
Mhm.
through it. So just having those things available.
Absolutely. And how do these responses or how do these approaches to kind of help creating that safe emotional expression at home, how does that differ by age or developmental stage? Because I know it's going to be different across the range.
For sure. Like, we have our toddler, preschool age. They're the
Mhm.
ones who, I mean, really, it can be any age. I've seen teenagers come home and do it too, but the toddlers are going to come home and like just lose it, maybe temper tantrum, and they're
Yeah.
tired, and because they can't express and they can identify their feelings, so therefore they can't express it the right way, and that's just what
Yeah.
they do. So you
Yeah.
might see more frustration at home, you might see being more whiny and irritable, changes in sleeping patterns, being more clingy, maybe showing a little bit of regression during this transition time. Transitions are hard. And then preschoolers, because they're of the developmental stage they're in, they might be trying to exert a little bit more bossiness. They might try to um, see what they're allowed to do and kind of testing
Mhm.
those limits. And then you have a
Mhm.
little bit older kids that might have those physical complaints of headaches, stomach aches. They might have some emotional outburst, just becoming, maybe they're more tearful or just irritable, moody, withdrawn. And then that extends a little bit more into like your teenagers. They more moodiness, more withdrawn. And again, that's just like this transition time, right? It should
Yeah.
be very short lived. And if it goes
Yeah.
on longer, that's when like maybe we need to check in. But those are all really normal responses when we're trying to figure out all the new things.
Yeah.
And I think expecting those meltdowns and tantrums, I mean, that's just kind of them being their developmental age.
Yeah. And then even I think it helps to kind of expect it too, because then you can mentally prepare
Yeah,
yourself for modeling proper emotional expression as
right,
opposed to doing what I did 2 days ago and yelling because
right.
she was yelling, right? So,
Yeah,
yes, I think just having that in mind and going through that frame of mind can help for sure. Um,
yeah.
and
And
then
you can
as we
meet them
know
where they're at, right? Like
yeah,
if they're like screaming and yelling, maybe you get a pillow and you scream and yell into your pillow and
yeah,
you're matching their energy. And then you can slowly do something to bring it down together too. Like you
mhm,
can match what they're doing. But and also like don't try and talk to them or reason with them at that time because that's not going to work.
yeah, it's mood,
Their system is overloaded
yeah,
and they can't. They probably want to, but they can't and they don't know how.
mhm,
So it really is just
mhm,
about helping them self-regulate then at that point too.
absolutely. And as we know, even in times where there are expected transitions in life, even with the best preparation, sometimes things just happen, and there are unexpected moments. As our families know, it could whether it's a sudden hospitalization, or even a classroom change, or even shifts in friendships that happen at
Hmm.
school.
Hmm.
So I
Yep.
know that in our prep meeting, you had mentioned that everything we've kind of mentioned thus far can be adopted and adapted to kind of support kids through those times. But I know that you also have additional routines and tools to kind of help children feel more secure during some of those unexpected changes as they come.
Yes, and really what I was thinking about too, a lot with this too was
Hmm.
siblings in this
Hmm.
part, right? Because some of those unexpected things that can happen, if there is a hospitalization, say,
Hmm.
like, or someone gets sick at school and the child has to go to the hospital, or it happens during the day, the siblings at home, and then because this applies, obviously, this all applies to siblings too, like transitions for them as well,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
things can happen unexpectedly. So
Hmm.
having some type of an emergency or safety plan, let the kids help you make that plan. So any type of unexpected hospitalization, have a plan of who's going to pick you up from school, who are you going to stay with, who's going to get you dinner, are they going how are they going to get a hold of the parent to talk to the parent. So having that conversation with them, and this can be any kind of, like you said, any kind of emergency, but like I was really thinking if something happened to a sibling and the parent wasn't there to get them.
Hmm.
So just having those plans in place and kind of written down so they know what to expect. Oh, mom's not here today. Okay, so I know, or they're going home from school and they know grandma's there at the door instead. What's going to happen? Well, I know grandma's going to tell me, and I know next I'm going to call mom and she's going to fill me in on what's going on. And
Hmm.
then how do they want to be notified if something changed? Do they want to be notified at school during their day and be informed of the plan change? Or do they want to wait till they get home? Because it's really
Hmm.
not, they just want to finish their school day because they like being at school. And is there maybe identify a safe neighbor that they can go to? So if something happens at home unexpectedly, like maybe something scary and somebody gets sick, who's a neighbor you can go to and you can knock on their door and they're part of your plan and you can walk in their house. So
Hmm.
those kinds of small things can be really helpful. Again, it's the preparedness and
Hmm.
letting them know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And as always, we like to end with just some recommended resources. So, what do you have available, or what would you recommend to families or parents to help them prepare their child a little bit more for back to school, or as we said, just other transitions?
Well, I do think what we've kind of already showed, the social story. I think social
Hmm.
stories are great for kids. We have the huge list of books that we put together. So
Hmm.
reading those and even reading them during, at the beginning of the school year and during the school year, those can all be helpful. And if I mentioned Mighty and Bright for the school calendars, so if that
Hmm.
is something, um, they have a ton of different calendars and they're, removable stickers. So it does have things for, I think they have like autism, they have hospitalizations and sickness, and they have regular calendars for two different homes. So if there's parents that live in two different homes, that can
Mm,
help with, it's all to help with transition. So that's really where the
nice.
idea first came from, was to help with transitional times and
Yeah.
lots of changes. So,
Yeah. That's wonderful. And then, as always, I know we said it before, but you're available
yep, all the
to
time.
reach out all the time. To reach out, Annie G at hopeforhie.org, but all of her information is on hie.support. Or if you go to our website, go to parents, you go to get support or get connected. So that's where you can
Mhm.
find Annie for that one-on-one personalized help. And as always, thank you so much for joining us and for helping us families guide through some of these moments. I know next month is September and it is NICU Awareness Month. So our Child Life Q&A will be around those lines, how a child life specialist can either help in a NICU setting, or if even not available, how a child life specialist outside of that NICU, like you, can help
Mhm.
help with bonding strategies for parents as they kind of with their baby as they and siblings too as they go through that time.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that one because I think there
mhm.
are a lot of NICUs that don't have child life. So
Yeah, yeah.
helping to give ideas of ways that the families can still feel supported in the way that, um, if we were there, I think will be, I'm hoping it will be helpful.
Yes, absolutely. So that'll get promoted very soon this week. So keep an eye out for that because that is happening in September. And until then, thanks for joining, and we will see you all again soon. Thanks.